Hello everyone, welcome to Finding Pharma. Today we have a very special guest, Jodie Do, one of my dear friends from pharmacy school and current medical manager at Loreal. Over the next 10 minutes, we're going to sort of cover three broad topics. Firstly, some of Jodie's early experience in her career as a pharmacist. Secondly, in the theme of the channel, how she found her way into pharma, although I know I've been corrected, it's probably more the beauty cosmetics side of pharma. And the last piece just around, what does a day or what does the week look like for someone working as a medical manager? And the whole point of this video is really to inspire, fellow pharmacy students to sort of think outside of the box. You don't have to just work in a community pharmacy or hospital. There's actually a lot of options out there for you. And even if you're not a pharmacist, you might be a nursing, a physio graduate, there's more to the hospital and just physio clinics for you to think about. A quick disclaimer before we start, the views expressed in this interview are solely those of myself and our guest. They do not reflect the views or official stance of our employers. Our guests have not been compensated for their participation in the interview, and any discussion is purely for educational purposes only. So Jodie, before we get into it, I know you get up to a lot of extracurricular, and one of the things that I've been hearing a lot about, seeing a lot about on LinkedIn is this SurFebruary. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but can you tell us a little bit about what that is and what inspired you?
Yeah, so SurFebruary is basically a month of hitting the water in some way, whether it be surfing or just going for a swim to raise money for cancer research. This is specifically done in conjunction with the Chris O'Brien Lighthouse. So all these funds that are raised will go towards cancer research. And I think this is something that's close to my heart because, a family member of mine was diagnosed with cancer all of a sudden last year, and basically to go through that journey, looking after them and supporting them through their journey is quite important and close to my heart. And I want to be able to help those in the future who go through the same thing.
Yeah, wow, super inspiring. And I'll drop a link to where people can hopefully donate to you, your cause.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Super powerful and meaningful. Now, you're probably one of the brightest minds in pharmacy school that I got to sort of experience group work with. You were on dual scholarships. But I know one of the things, when we talk about pharma is maybe that academic prowess wasn't recognized. And so I'd like to kind of take you back down memory lane. And so my first question to you would be, where did you study? What was your early career like finishing pharmacy school?
So where I studied was at the University of Sydney with you, David. I studied a Bachelor of Pharmacy, and I actually took a gap year before starting that degree. And in terms of what my career was like in terms of early career, I did community pharmacy. So I registered as pharmacist in charge as a community pharmacist, but I also fell into compounding pharmacy at that time as well. So that was something that I was quite interested in. I really love cooking. So I actually found a lot of comparisons, which one of my bosses will say that compounding pharmacy is not like cooking, but I beg to differ. Clearly, he never got in the kitchen before. That's how my early career started as a registered pharmacist. However, I just want to backtrack a bit. I've been in pharmacy since I was 14, so I've always worked in pharmacy as a pharmacy assistant throughout my career up until then.
Yeah, wow, quite extensive pharmacy experience. And it's nice to see that interplay, right? You started in community as a student, and then I suppose exploring that compounding pathway, which is quite different. So for me, as as a friend and an onlooker, I've always admired how you've been able to try different things in pharmacy. But let's move on to the next question in terms of the theme of this channel, Finding Pharma, finding your way into the corporate world. What was that light bulb moment where you thought, maybe in some ways ready to hang up the white coat and move into corporate?
That's a great question. Well, what was the light bulb moment for me? I think it was after actually getting registered as a pharmacist. I had experience in compounding pharmacy as well as retail pharmacy at that point. And I sort of just figured, what's next? I feel like I've mastered a lot of things up until this point, and I actually followed my interests and passions. And I think it's important to always have those things floating around in your mind because, it's as human beings, we're like quite dynamic creatures, and these things spark joy in us. And for me, like, I always loved beauty and cosmetics, but I could never justify going into that industry just by itself. Like, I really need some science to stimulate me, keep me going. And I think also is just the fact, like my ethnic background, coming from a very traditional Asian background, like I was guided into doing pharmacy as well because it was like a very safe choice. The light bulb moment though, however, was when I was compounding a cream and I realized like, you know, gosh, if I wasn't qualified to compound this cream right, it just wouldn't be smooth and the compliance of the actual product to the patient wouldn't be like successful for the intended effect. So I really thought to myself, like, how can I learn more about actually the formulations aspect of things? Yeah, the idea of learning more like how to actually make things better. And I think this is where like innovation comes into play. Like I've always been about like self-development and learning about how I could master things, and so I took a bit of a risk. And I remember actually having this conversation with my cousin over in Germany. I said like at that time I was just like gone from like a poor uni student to just like, you know, full-time pharmacy, and I was like, I don't know if I should spend this much money on like, you know, this course in advanced cosmetic science and formulation because I don't know if it would lead to anywhere. And I think what I learned from that was like, well, my cousin said do it because you never know, but like it is important to invest in yourself and your learning and to always develop yourself further. And so I really valued the money that I put into that course, and as a result I was like, what can I do next with this? And that's when I started to look for jobs which combine like, you know, formulations, ingredients, as well as like more of the cosmetic side of things. So things to do with creams, face creams. And then this is when I got this job offer with Loreal as a medical area manager. And yeah, it wasn't quite pharma, but it wasn't totally all just beauty. It was very like medical focused as well. So that's how I went from my light bulb moment to, I guess, where I am now.
Actioning it. Yeah, I love that. And it sounds like, you know, from what I hear, that perfect marrying up of wanting challenge and having that growth mindset. You know, you were looking for what's next, but also what you're passionate about, you know, what gives you joy, and cosmetics and beauty obviously is one of those things. But I couldn't help but smile, you know, that pharmacist in you, that pharmacy training around quality use of medicines and compliance and ensuring, you know, good manufacturing, that creams are made to, you know, the right standard that they should be to help benefit patients. I'm curious though, you know, it's not that easy, even though Loreal is slightly different to Pharma. You know, when you're applying, what are some of the hurdles that you potentially, or did you have a few setbacks, and what's maybe some tips for people who are applying that, you know, you might get rejected, and how do you pick yourself up, and or how do you stay motivated to keep going and continue to apply?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. Like it was really hard. I'm not gonna lie, like it was such a journey to get to that point. And I remember the interview process was quite long and I had to do quite a few interviews as well. And it wasn't anything that I'd ever done before, because usually in community pharmacy, at least, like you apply for a job, you go for an interview and you sort of get offered the job then and there, which is amazing.
Very informal.
Whereas like in the corporate world, I had to learn the corporate system as well and understand that there were like processes, like rigorous processes. Yeah. So I really, you know, tapped into my network. Like, you know, you were one of the people that I tapped into to like help me out, because you were in the pharma industry, and yeah, to basically help me through the process and like understand that there are behavioral questions and like, you know, how you displayed your results in like your previous jobs, because like, yeah, you want to be able to showcase your skills at the end of the day. Yeah. But to do that in a more a formal process is something that wasn't second nature to me at that time. So that was a hurdle to actually learn that. So I did as much research as possible, tried to do as much practice as possible, whether it be with my sisters, with, you know, my friends, and yeah, basically go from there. In terms of like, I think I had to be patient as well. Like that's very important, because when you're dealing with big companies, they have many things that are going on. I think it's good to always be very respectful and polite, and just to maintain like a good relationship, so understand where they're at as well in the journey to like hiring someone new. So just perhaps asking in interviews about timelines, like, or next steps when you hear back from them, or what the process is like, is really important, just to manage your own expectations so you're not like sitting waiting around. But with any job, I think anything can happen though. Like, you know, I think the road to getting a job, it's sort of like a numbers game at the end of the day. And I think you need to sort of pick yourself up after, like, you know, a rejection or something not going the way that you want, and then like reflect, take your learnings and move on to the next thing. And also realize that it's a two-way street for a job. Like, you need to know whether it's a good fit for you at the end of the day as well. I think that's really important. Like, I'm very authentic and true to myself, and I know myself, and if the values of a company don't align with mine, then I think that's not a good fit. And yeah, I think that's important. Just asking questions about the company that you're going into as well is very important.
Yeah, I love that sort of two-way dialogue. And if I can use a similar real life example, maybe it's like dating. You want to research the partner that you're going on a date with. You might practice your first line or where you're going to take them out to eat, but you've also got to be patient for the right person to come along and make sure that, you know, you can vibe with them and that there is longevity in it, because the worst thing is you find yourself applying for a job that you're going to be miserable in, because life's short, as COVID has taught us. So really great advice. Now, your role is like, again, I find it super fascinating because it's slightly outside of pharma, but there are many similar traits. For the guys wondering who are watching, you know, what does a medical manager at Loreal do? Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek, a window into what, you know, maybe what your week was like this week?
Yeah, so every week and every day as a medical area manager at Loreal is very different. It's very dynamic. For me, I find it can be challenging, fun, enriching, and rewarding in different ways. Like Monday, say for example, starts off with a warm-up session. So this is where a lot of the admin and planning for the week is done. No proper meetings are taken during this time. It's a sacred space to basically prepare yourself for success. And then also later in the day, I had a couple of meetings with a few doctors. So I see different doctors, healthcare professionals, and give them updates on our latest products, going over different journal papers, clinical studies that we have to support the evidence behind our new products as well. Specifically, like, we talked about photoprotection as well as acne. So we talk about many different things, but it's very different depending on who I'm seeing as well. So it's never like a one size fits all type meeting. It's always dynamic and changing. It might be the first time I'm meeting like a healthcare professional, or it might be an ongoing relationship. So, you know, like Forrest Gump says, you never know what, I don't know what the saying is, but you get like, you know, you never know what you're going to get at the end of the day. But also at the same time, like, you know, there's a lot of strategy planning as well. So I had a lot of strategy meetings this week with my team that we currently have is amazing. And having that strategy meeting allows us to align for like clear goals that we want to set out to achieve this year, and then like go for it. So this is what my week has been like this week. So it's been, honestly, every week is different.
Yeah. It sounds to me, you know, very technical. You obviously have a lot of expertise in the space, quite skilled in tailoring the conversation so that they're bespoke to whether it's a dermatologist that you're seeing or a GP or a pharmacist. So having that background, would you say, like being a pharmacist, that kind of gives you, I suppose, maybe unfair advantage?
It definitely gives you an edge. Like the clinical knowledge that I have as a pharmacist and the way I've been taught to like support my ways of thinking definitely helped me in my job. So medical education, as well as like there are other things that I've done this week as well that haven't been, it's like more passion project side. So like we're doing also like things that I'm interested in that I can do on top to stretch myself in the role. So it's very dynamic, no one size fits all, basically. And I like, maybe different to pharmacy, you know, having been a pharmacist myself, it can be quite monotonous and repetitive, but it sounds like, you know, there is a lot of variety, and the fact that you're allowed to pursue a personal project and is quite cool, I think, because you don't really get that in pharmacy. It's kind of the same routine week in, week out. Back end of last year, I was fortunate enough to attend one of your
amazing medical education events for dermatologists coming together. And maybe this week there wasn't as much speaking events, but I know in the past in our conversations you've talked about presenting to intern pharmacists at big training events or different conferences. So if the guys can't tell already, I think you're a natural on camera and an excellent presenter. But maybe, before we wrap up, as I said, you're a subject matter expert in all things skinceuticals, for want of a better word. Can you give us an insight into what your skincare regime is?
Definitely, but I'm also going to have to correct you on the SkinCeuticals. SkinCeuticals is actually a skincare brand as well. It's one of the ones that we have at Loreal.
Okay.
It's more premium. It's amazing as well. So CE ferulic if you ever want to try a new antioxidant serum from them. Shout out SkinCeuticals. But for my actual skincare regime, I like to keep it very simple. My personal philosophy is less is best. And say for example, in the morning, I cleanse with CeraVe Blemish Control Cleanser, which is good for preventing breakouts. And then I moisturize with a niacinamide cream. So that's going to help stimulate ceramide production in my skin, which is good to keep the moisture within my skin as well, and also brighten. And then I like to finish off with a vitamin C serum all over the face and neck, because you can't forget the neck. And then I love using my all-time favorite Enthalios Invisible sunscreen, so that all over the face and neck as well. For nighttime routine, it's cleansing as well, moisturizer, and that's pretty much it. That's my skincare regime.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And we've covered a lot today. We've looked at your early career journey, what inspired you to move into corporate, pharma or beauty. And if you didn't take anything from that, at least you got to learn some skincare tips, which I'm sure will hold you in good stead. So thanks Jodie for making time. It was always good to see you. And guys, I hope you feel inspired from that. Again, there's so many options out there outside of maybe what your traditional health degree, what you may think it gets you. And so I hope you took a lot of insight from that. Let me know in the comments below, what was your biggest takeaway? Perhaps there was a question you wanted me to ask that I didn't get to ask. Drop it in the comments and I'm sure I will follow up with Jodie and I'll get an answer for you. I'll see you guys on the next video.
See ya. Thanks, David.